Friends, welcome back to another very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and kind of adorable man-eater,
Alex Dandino, ASMR specialist.
Good Lord, a lot of mustache moving there.
We'll get to that.
All right, guys, before today's amazing finale to our The Pod Serves Man curation, a little business, guys. It is official. Your friends here at the Film Alchemist are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. For as little as $1 a month, you can get in, join our community, meet our spectacular patrons we already have. And if you can, and begin to climb the official Highlander tier ranking system, you can select the specific movies you want to hear in a Patreon exclusive library. It's the best way to help us out. It's the best way to help this show be the show you want and deserve. We know dollars are hard earned, so we're working hard, always coming up with more ideas for stuff to do for our patrons over there. So, again, that's patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. For those of you who already help us, thank you. It means the world to us. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Make sure you go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, Film Alchemist, so you can see our just delicious buffet kind of faces. A lot of good face meat on this pod, or at least a lot of meat in general.
A lot of meat, just meat.
The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the socials you're on. We're easy to get a hold of, and we love to hear from you. Also, if you'd be so kind, leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show. And make sure to invite some of your friends along for the ride. All right, Alex has some very special business to get to.
Also, for those of you who might not know, I am part of a comic book anthology. I'm a comic book writer here and there. I wrote a story in an anthology called Producing the End of the World from our friends Soda and Telepaths. I'm one of 18 writers in this anthology. It's being Kickstarted right now. If you like stories about the end of the world, like a bunch of different stories, like mine is about the last concert ever. There's some that are actually about the actual end of the world. They're all really good, but I would implore you, we'll put in the show notes, go to the Kickstarter, think about throwing us a couple of bucks. It would really help us out. It's a lofty Kickstarter goal, but these things tend to work out for bigger books like this, and there's a lot of good content. So please, 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 please think about contributing to Producing the End of the World from Soda and Telepaths. With yours truly.
Wonderful story that Alex added. So make sure to get over there, guys. Again, that will be in the show notes. All right. Enough of that business. Let's get munchin'. Man munchin'. Tasty as hell. The Pod Serves Man has been an interesting ride through the Motel Hell. We took a stop there. Then we bone tomahawked each other. Then we delicatessened, another kind of hotel-themed man-eating tale. And tonight we come to maybe the most thoughtful of our cannibalistic flicks, selected by our patrons. Another benefit of being one of our patrons, when we set a curation, the patrons get a vote on what they want the fourth film to be. So of our array of movies they could select, Ravenous won, and not by a little bit. Ravenous might have blown the competition away, unlike any other movie we've posted. This is a beloved movie. I went to Letterboxd to see how some of our listeners and friends like this film. It's a very beloved film. So Ravenous, essentially, and I'll be upfront, I had never seen this movie before, which is always a fun thing for me. So Ravenous is the story of a soldier in the time of the Mexican-American War, whenever the fuck that is. I just said that because I don't know years. Because I'm not a fucking calendar. Why do I need to know fucking years? I have calendars for that.
Fair.
I just said calendar like 5 times more than I thought I would this whole show.
Calendar.
Yeah, Calendar Man. So this guy was in a war. He has some PTSD going on. He gets sent out to a rural retreat. Seems like it'll be fine, and bourbon drinking, and then all hell breaks loose. Man-eating Wendigo. And it is this film, because I expected one film, and what I got was something completely different. The whole theory of our show, right? Film Alchemist. Not just a nod to Full Metal Alchemist, which I adore. But we talk about how movies are more than just the number parts, right? Directing, acting, whatever, right? So all these movies have mixed sums, right? And when added together, it can become something totally new. Ravenous has several just strange choices made that made this film a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I like the movie, but it feel like if we were going to say the word of the week, Pee-wee style, right? Tone. Tone is the word of the week for Ravenous because it's all over the place. Yeah. That's not Pee-wee. I don't know what that was.
Sorry,
Slappy,
no,
I guess. The tone of
it
this film is the strangest and most memorable thing about the film. But I did like it. Alex, what are your opening thoughts on Ravenous?
Yeah, the tone threw me for a loop several times, in fact. I kind of just I tried getting a grip on we'll get to this later. There's one part of this film process that I have to say is almost to a point where distracted me to a point where I was I can't even focus on this movie right now.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You do know. And we'll get to that.
The score of this film. Let's just start up top.
Okay, cool. The score of this it's from Michael Nyman.
We'll do a couple how about this? We'll call out a couple of the things that threw us for a loop.
Yeah.
And then we'll dig into the movie.
So the first thing is the score. Now, the score itself is very interesting. It's by Michael Nyman and Damon Albarn from Gorillaz and Blur, if you're from the 90s like some of us are. Or those people who think the 90s was 10 years ago like Griffey and I. But the score itself is not... I mean, it's distracting because it's mixed so high up in the mix. There's a...
that's what you're going with.
Here's my thing. It's like Christopher Nolan saw the movie. He's like, it's a great movie, but let me mix the music all the way up.
Some guy's wait, we have sliders?
This was all the other weird, goofy shit kind of that's in the movie. This was the thing that killed me. And I've never, we've watched so many of these movies. And, some of them I'm taken out of immediately. This one... Ravenous, I was in. I was watching, and I'm cool. This is the second Western we've watched. It's weird that cannibalism and Westerns seem to always fit.
3 Westerns, all horror films for us. Yeah.
It's bizarre. But so the scene where who's that? Neil McDonough is going down in the cave. Mm-hmm. When he actually starts his descent into the cave, the music cue that kicks in, it was whoa. It's this deep bass, and I'm just what is? It's very it's kind of anachronistic almost. I'm just what's going on?
Well, not only that, when they climb out of the cave, I agree with you. It pulls you right out of the film, right?
Yeah.
For instance, when they pull themselves out of the cave, the slaughterhouse is found, and Calhoun is just slaughtering the party, right?
Yeah.
He tells the Christian guy, run. And then all of a sudden, we just start this hoedown music. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? I was like, is this a Benny Hill routine we're doing now? Yeah. The stakes are, I'm going to slaughter you and eat you in the wilderness. Your loved ones will have no idea what happened to you. But they play this goofy-ass music. At the end, there's it almost sounds like a house music beat when we're doing our final sword fight. I mean, there are so many weird. There's one part where he's walking back from his horrific ordeal, right? Boyd is walking back to the camp, and I swear to God, if you had told me that was a lifted track from Napoleon Dynamite, I would have believed you. The score of this film is more repulsive to me than eating a human being.
It's bizarre.
It's not that the music itself is bad.
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't
music's
belong
fine.
in this film.
No.
And it's funny because our friend Josh Lobo, who's been on the show a lot, writer and director of the wonderful film I Trapped the Devil, I read his Letterboxd review and he said, literally the best score of any film ever. And I don't know if Josh at this point has just become a person who's constantly trying to set me up for feuds. But this soundtrack is not, I wouldn't say it's crippling to the film because I really enjoy this film. But it's very bad and does not belong. There's also this weird tone of this movie very often wishes it was a 90s indie comedy, right? So we start with the Nietzsche quote, right? Men who hunt monsters must beware they themselves don't become monsters. I'm paraphrasing, right? Sorry, Nietzsche. Sorry, Nietzsche, if you're rolling around in your grave.
It's a Nietzsche.
Yeah. Oh, Nietzsche. Oh, Nietzsche, I'm sorry. I said the words wrong. I actually think he was German. Neither here nor there.
He's definitely German.
So we do the, be careful, men who hunt monsters not to become a monster. Fart sound, eat me, anonymous. And I was like, that's the first thing you see in the film. And I was like, wait, what? I thought this was this, sad cowboy introspection and destroying our humanity. Oh, no, it's like the fart sound effect movie. And then as we saunter off across the west as he gets sent westward bound, they do this weird where the sound effects, because it's like this very wide vista shots, right, of this snowy alpine forest in the west, right, this desolate landscape. The actors' names come in the credits, and they're bright red, right? It's almost like Comic Sans, and they slide in, and it's a whoosh. They do the whoosh sound effect. It's so there because after Kevin Smith, there were so many '90s micro budget indie comedies. And that's what it felt like I was watching for 20 minutes.
It actually reminded me of the credits. It reminded me of the opening credits for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze. How fucking bright the title cards were. That's how I always think of it. And then, the motion in, the sliding, I was like...
The slide in was...
What are we watching?
Why is this? Because I was like, isn't this kind of a big sad moment for him? Whoosh! They should have just had words come in onomatopoeia style. Depressed. Hungry. But no,
it should have been Batman Bams. Yeah.
Yeah, and the comedy works better once we get past this kind of opening. What movie are they making? And this was the 90s, and some of this happened, right? This obviously was not an enormously budgeted film. So we got that out of the way, right? There are some very hinky, rough edges on this film at times. But once you get past that stuff, right, if that doesn't rub you the wrong way right away, I said at the top of the film, I think this might be the most introspective of the cannibal movies. I think there's a lot to chew on in this film. I thought
I knew you were going to do it.
Yeah, you could see it. You can see it in my eyes.
I saw it as far away as I saw a guy who happens to walk into camp and definitely didn't eat people.
Yeah, so in your brain you just heard, whoosh, he's going to do it. No. But yeah, I like the idea of the soldier with PTSD and what that does to a man, mixed with the idea of cannibalism, right? And the Wendigo, right? So Wendigo is essentially
the Wendigo beat is actually really interesting.
Yeah, and it's the curse of you eat another human being, right? And that manifests, that loss of humanity, that dehumanizing your fellow man, manifests in you becoming an ever hungry and more voraciously starving monster. Right. And they don't have to make anyone a monster. They have no prosthetics. No. And it works perfectly well because they've set the emotional tone and the psychological tone of what that would do to you, right?
Yeah.
And there's some great beats with the Wendigo stuff. And when you pair that with this man who has seen this carnage, right? Because we open and Guy Pearce's character has been in this war and he was in the midst of it, right? And he got scared and he just laid down. He was so overwhelmed by the carnage. We see these shots of this up-close brutality. He actually gets buried amongst the dead, right? And he's just staring at his commander's blown-apart face.
He has such a horrifying experience. He literally passes out on the battlefield. He's he quite frankly falls asleep.
He essentially
he's
plays
so
possum.
Traumatized. Yeah,
he just plays possum. And then he wakes up under the dead bodies, comes out, does a really well-techniqued neck snapping, and manages to capture the enemy command because he's behind enemy lines. So he gets a medal, but because of the medal for cowardice, as he says,
right,
they also want to punish him, so they send him out west, right? I think this is a lovely idea, right? That you are the soldier who has committed a murder, right? We see the neck snap. He's going in. He did the mission. But because he didn't do the mission in a manly enough way, he's still punished, right? And I think there's a lot of interesting run in that idea, right? Yeah. This idea of as we're conquering this new world, I think a lot of these movies don't take the time to show what that must have been like, right? Because a lot of these movies in this time period and Westerns we've talked about, the shooting people seems as simple as, well, I got to go pick some corn today. Oh, Hey, cowpoke, pew, right? Oh,
Right.
another cowpoke dead, pew, right? Grab his boots, pew. And they never showed the kind of built-up trauma of this.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice addition to this film. I liked watching that arc, and then watching that butt up against this newfound, he could become the Wendigo himself.
Mm-hmm.
And him having to truly grapple with that, right? Making that decision again in a way. I thought that was wonderful. What did you make of this journey?
Yeah, I like, this one does a really good job of the real against the surreal. And like you're saying, the butting up is it's really well done. I love the setup for this movie. Like the concept and the conceit to get us to the location is awesome. I also love it might be now one of my all-time favorite scenes in a movie is the ASMR of Guy Pearce dealing with like all these guys eating just the grossest bloody steaks.
Oh, what a
Like,
shot! What a scene, though, right? The like
what an
60
incredible
steak table.
I mean, it's an incredible. What it is especially after you've watched the entire movie, it's an incredible opener. Like really to like open up like what this is for this guy, and you realize this is human flesh, but this is flesh that was literally like this is like it sat upon him anyways, and like all the stakes are very bloody.
Well,
and
he's been
just,
cattle
and he's
himself.
been at the bottom.
Yeah.
He's been the cattle. Yeah, like it's this fascinatingly done moment and awesome beat that sets the scene for the rest of the movie. So once you arrive at the camp, which is painted as like basically it ends up being like it ends up being like a Days Inn in the middle of nowhere because like for weary travelers. But like because that's almost precisely how Jeffrey Jones's character describes it. He goes, I don't know, people just show up here sometimes. We let them live for like 10 minutes while they wait out the weather. It's
mostly it's just a lot of bourbon drinking and peyote smoking with D. Arquette.
Ton of dude, yeah.
Making his second Western cannibal appearance.
I am not lying to you. First off, this cast is incredible.
Really great cast.
I was not expecting David Arquette to show up in this movie. I knew nothing about this cast past Guy Pearce. David Arquette shows up as like just a fucking peyote psycho. You're like, cool. I mean, all bets are off if D. Arquette's in the film,
though, right? The setup of the story is very interesting and more introspective than you imagine. Mm-hmm. The cast is wonderful, right? You got Neil McDonough, who plays fucking Calhoun. What's that guy's name? Wonderful.
Oh, Robert Carlyle, man.
Wonderful
God
fucking
damn,
actor.
He's so
great
good
in everything. And I've seen him in a lot. This is right up there with my favorite roles he's in.
I think so too, man.
He really owns this role a lot. And it's played very well, right? So I love a lot of what's going on here, right? Did I ever tell you my Neil McDonough story before we move on?
No.
So when I was still in LA, me and Carmine, our friend Carmine, we went to see Meatloaf in concert.
Awesome.
And as me and Carmine were wont to do, we got super fucking stoned, right? And I was like, I'll drive us down there. I had a map, but I couldn't feel my feet. They felt like balloons. So after a block, I just parked my car and I'm like, dude, we got to run to the subway and get down to Meatloaf, right? So we go to the subway, we get lost. We're wandering around downtown. We finally get to Meatloaf, right? There's no way to get to the front. It's all packed in. So we're like, fuck. So we post up by this table in the back. And all of a sudden we just hear this, what's up, brothers? We turn and it's Neil McDonough, also at the Meatloaf concert. Wow. And I was like, hey, you're the guy they wanted us to believe could beat up The Rock in Walking Tall. So I was super stoned. He goes, yeah, good one. And he's like, but I would. And so we start shooting the shit, right? Well, next thing you know, his date comes over.
Right.
And she is this gargantuan woman, right? Not like obese, but just like enormously tall, right?
Like an Amazon.
Yeah, she literally looked like a comic book character. Like she was like almost 7 feet tall, just huge, right? Like you shook her hand, you're like, oh my God. Like just a big lady, really nice lady, right?
Right.
So we're sitting there hanging out, we're all drinking and fucking stoned to shit. Meatloaf comes on and she loses it, right? This fucking gargantuan woman loses it. She's like, Meatloaf! And she fucking rushes the stage. And I shit you not, she's so big, you see the fucking crowd parting like the fucking Red Sea. She is moving motherfuckers out of the way that are jazzed on Meatloaf. So big, chunky guys like us. Right. Moving them out of the way like they're nothing. She makes it to the stage. Meatloaf's up there dying of an asthma attack trying to sing a song, right? She gets on stage. A security guard tries to grab her. She fucking one-arm brushes him. Right? So next thing you know, she is like juggernauting her way to Meatloaf, who's kind of sidestepping and like trying not to die of a heart attack. It took 5 security guards to try to wrangle this broad off the stage. And she is just working them. And we're just sitting there going, Neil McDonough, look at your girlfriend. She's kicking ass. We're like fucking, we're losing our minds. And right after that, they did an intermission, right? Where Meatloaf went off the stage and the light went black. And we're like, oh, God, they must be arresting or something. A projector screen drops down. And a giant Little John face in front of a roiling thunderstorm cloud comes out and goes, yeah! And starts rapping. So that Meatloaf can fucking hit oxygen, it looks like, and come back out and try to sing with Lil Jon. It is one of the greatest high experiences of my life and my Neil McDonough story. So not to completely derail the pod.
I mean, that is a worthy derailment right there.
Did his girlfriend eat human flesh? That's what I'm posing here. I've never seen a person dominate the way that gargantuan lady dominated.
It's possible those security guards lost their lives. It's possible she was already eating people and was a Wendigo.
Maybe
in fact.
Neil McDonough's character Reich survived, and then through the years kept creating these gargantuan dates with human flesh. But anywho, so we get to the camp, right? And it's this nice, just totally derailing the show.
I love it.
Meatloaf, thanks for trying. Appreciate the effort. Voice, long gone. The voice had been cannibalized years ago. I actually have a Meatloaf story. I'll save that for another pod. I have another Meatloaf story. That's neither here nor there. What I like to is, so we meet the characters, right? Again, we're kind of doing the 90s comedy, right? Neil McDonough, screaming and thing. A fucking wandering stranger comes in from the cold. They wake him up, and he tells the sad story. It's kind of the Donner Party thing, right? We tried. This commander wanted us to go over the mountains. We got caught in a cave. One man died, and we started to eat him. And I love what he says here, right? Now, this is where the movie starts to get really interesting to me. And this is where I think the cannibalism in this film is used to better effect, right?
Right.
Because he has a line that I loved, right? He said, the storm didn't pass. They ate the ox, they ate the horse, they ate his own dog, they ate shoes, belts, whatever. Guy dies, they start eating his leg. And he goes, and God help me, I came back in that cave. I don't know if I would have stopped him or not, but when I came back in that cave, and I smelled the smell of meat cooking, I thanked the Lord. And then he talks about how after that, their hunger was more severe,
right,
and more savage. And I think that's a wonderfully brilliant way to phrase this, right? That even this thing that repulses us, when he smelled it, he thanked the Lord. Again, proving my point, we would all eat another person. Sure. But what did you make of this, his story, right? He says, I guess I have to tell you a tale. And this is the backstory we get for Calhoun.
I mean, it's just, again, it's Robert Carlyle. Like, it's this really, like,
fucking
it's this really incredible, like, beat. And to be honest, I'm hearing it, and it's really interesting because this movie does such a good job of not, like, doing...
And you start eyeballing up other humans, and you're like, maybe I would.
Yeah.
Probably I would.
To me, like, what it does is, again, I had not seen the movie, but I'm watching it and I'm like, I smell a setup. Like, something about it just, and I don't know if it's because
you thought he was doing a little community theater. He was doing a little one-man show.
The other thing about Robert Carlyle is, like, because he's been Begbie from Trainspotting, my first thought is like, how often is it that Robert Carlyle is, like, the character you're supposed to, like,
you're
trust?
Metagaming the movie. Yeah. You're like, there is something so generically not trustworthy about it.
Yeah, that would be my... That was like my assertion the whole time. It's like something's... It wasn't... I guess I'll not act like I knew what was going to happen. But I was just like, something doesn't rub right.
Yeah.
The way the story's told.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll tell you this. I didn't expect the movie to play it when it did. When it went to the woods in the cave, right? I assumed the rest of the movie would be the most dangerous game, right? Someone in that cave was going to be hunting everyone, right? That's the movie I thought I was going to get. Most dangerous game, Predator, what have you.
Right.
I thought it was really wonderful, man. There's a really nice scene when Calhoun finishes the the religious guy's hymn for him, gives him the word, right? I thought that was really sly considering what we were about to find out. And he falls and gets hurt, right? And there's this crazy scene when he's fucking licking the dude's wound. And he's like, I was just having a nightmare. I'm sorry.
Well, and that was the one, and I was like, fucking something's coming up, man. And
by
like,
that point,
again,
once you see someone licking another man's like ripped open bloody tum-tum, you're like, the trust has sailed. The trust.
That's always the one where you're sitting.
Imagine your life. Imagine your life if you just woke up somewhere and you saw someone licking a bloody tum-tum.
It's just like there's, and again, it's
red flag.
I think this is interesting though, because like the that happening is like such a fucking like obvious red flag, not just for characters but for like viewers. We're just like, okay, something's wrong with this guy, and like and that should be like, to me, this is the kind of movie where you want to keep like who's actually this person quiet for as long as you can. So it's interesting to me that really it sets off right there. You know exactly what's about to happen. Like there's no question about it. Like why would the guy be licking
40 minutes or like 30 some minutes into the film, they completely tell you this guy's in on it.
Yeah.
And what I like about the movie is it's not this kind of whodunit, we can't trust everyone, you know, the Thing style.
Right.
This is yeah, I fucking did it. Here's why I did it. Here's why you should do it. And here's also why you can't fucking judge me.
And I think what's even more interesting, and because like, yeah, we're only 30 minutes into the movie at this point, where they're fucking diming out the entire beat. And you're like, I know something's coming that I should be more, something about this is like, I'm not cognizant. Something is happening that I'm not, and I think that's what's great is because then you go further and we get to you get to the cave beat, and then the actual reveal happens where
the cave is awesome. It's not, that was cool.
The cave beat is incredible. Like it's so cool.
The idea that they were strung up like those slabs of beef that Rocky punches.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Because now you're like, this is not like we were just hungry people.
No, they were.
This was now like on a mass production
like
level.
Fattening
right?
a calf. Yeah, totally.
I thought that was gnarly, man.
And yeah, then, like the turn is great.
Yeah.
The turn's great. And then, yeah, like this very intrusive music starts happening. You're like, this is an important moment. I don't need music for it. But yeah, Benny Hill kicks in.
Hoedown! Cannibal Hoedown!
And then, and this is the part of the movie, though, where, like, if you watched it, okay, if you just watch a clip, because I watched the movie and then I went online and watched the trailer, because the trailer, by the way, out of Scream Factory is very weird. It sets a completely different tone for the movie.
Yeah.
So
probably a very somber horror movie tone.
And I'm very glad I didn't watch the trailer prior, because the trailer prior really actually paints it as like an actual black comedy. Like it markets it incorrectly, or kind of. I don't know. It depends on how you like to watch this movie. But then
they prepared you for the Nietzsche versus fart sound opening. Nietzsche versus the fart.
Well, and then that's what happens, because like, yeah, we have this like really somber moment with Robert Carlyle, and like leading up to a lot of that, it's kind of dark. Like it's not necessarily meant to be like
this
a funny
whole fucking
beat
film is, man. Like there is not a lot of sunshine in this film, even when they're attempting to do comedy.
Right. Like
the undertone of all of this is horrific.
Like when Boyd jumps off the cliff, because it's revealed that Calhoun's Ives, who's the actual guy who like ate everyone.
Yeah. He was the military man, yeah.
Boyd jumps off the cliff and hits every branch on a tree on the way down, and then proceeds to roll. I mean, it
seemed like a stupid idea the moment he did it.
It's all yeah, like it was a stupid thing to do anyways, but then he's rolling down the hill, and I timed it. I think it's about 45 seconds of straight just rolling down the hill beat. Like it's like a Monty Python sketch.
And then all of a sudden the soundtrack kicks in with rollin', 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 rollin'. What? Just because more misplaced music would be great.
That, or I was expecting as soon as he hit the ground, because Damon Albarn's part of it, like it was going like feel good,
feels bad, ouch, 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 ouch. Yeah. No, I mean, I understand all that too. But there is something about this moment, right? Because this whole moment is really interesting, because when he gets stuck down there, right, Reich wakes up and tries to strangle him one last time. He's stuck in there with Reich, a fellow soldier. We see Calhoun up there just getting on with it, right? And there's a moment I love when he starts talking to Calhoun or Reich's dead body. And he's like, I need you to tell me what to do. What to do. And then he looks at him, he just goes, you're dead. You're safe now. And it looks like he starts cutting into his leg, right? We don't actually see it, but it looks like we know what's about to happen. They're juxtaposing that with Calhoun skipping fucking rocks in the pond. He's having a great time just chuckling. He's a man free. So this is what will carry us in the second half of the film, right? Is we have Boyd and his immense guilt and his feeling that he must suffer and punish himself. Why, we do not know, right? Because he was a soldier and he saw other people die, but he takes that as his own issue, right? Survivor's guilt, I guess. And Calhoun saying, fuck all of this. I'm going to do exactly what I want. And the movie equates the decision to eat another human, right? Not as much with cannibalism, but almost with just a bucking of what other people say we have to be. There's almost this kind of like streak of like Wild West freedom, right?
Yeah. That is exactly what that is.
Yeah, and it's
that's
really
how it felt to me
interesting.
for sure. It is like, instead of it being this, because it starts, and it's interesting because like with Guy Pearce's character Boyd, it feels through the entire movie it is like this like man's curse on themselves. Like it's this very weird, like, I wouldn't call it a Jekyll and Hyde thing, but it is like, it's like a werewolf curse. Sorry, that's how I put it. It's like a werewolf curse kind of.
Jekyll and really sad Hot Topic kid smoking by a dumpster.
It's like this Jekyll and Hyde curse that persists through the movie for Boyd. Everyone else, but like Calhoun / Ives takes it as this, like it's an acceptance of existence. It's how you,
not only
continue
that
on
though,
and
right?
not go with the rest of like not be tamed like the Wild West.
And not only that, this was a man who was very sick from tuberculosis, right? So he was sick. He was ready to go to a sanitarium. He thought he was done, right?
Right.
He heard the story of the Wendigo. And I thought this was really fascinating too, right? This fucking white soldier who's helping to take the West from a Native American. Here's their tale of warning, right? About becoming less than human in the Wendigo. And he goes, I got to try that. He hears that not as a curse tale, but holy shit, I'm getting free powers? And all I got to do is eat some people that I don't give a shit about anyways. Although he does also eat his wife, we learn. But I thought that was really interesting too, is that I'm just blowing past the Native American warning and seeing this as a chance to be truly free. And they kind of get away from the Wendigo thing because you don't see him kind of falling apart, right? His hunger's not showing upon him like a vampiric thing where he's like, I have to eat. I'm crazed if I don't eat. He just seems like a super happy, well-adjusted guy. He's like, oh, I'm just making stew. No big deal. You're going to be the stew, but I look happy. Hey, come on, man. We're all good. I'm just out here having fun. He looks totally free, right? Whereas all the other people look dirty and forlorn. He looks stoked to be here.
Yeah. He's like engaged.
Yeah.
And again, like it's almost this, I think that's the thing is it's that like Hannibal Lecter levity that counterbalances like what's actually happening.
He pulls off the comedy bits fantastically.
He does. Like it's that's believable. Everything else is kind of hokey, but like that's believable because we've already gone past the sane with him. Like we're so far beyond because he's eating people, and not only that, he's a Wendigo. Like he's a supernatural being already. So for him to be, it's really fast. Like again, like it's fascinating the things that work so well in this movie. When it does, when like to me, they absolutely shouldn't. It's weird. I don't know if you read anything about the production for this movie, but the director got fired 2 weeks in, and Robert Carlyle's friend
It was
Antonio
probably
Bird,
the fart card.
It was the fart card. They saw dailies and like we can't do farts.
And the whooshing red credits. They're like, oh boy.
Yeah. Actually, Robert Carlyle brought his friend Antonia Bird in to finish the movie.
Wow.
But like this was this was like a big thing. It's but like that to me, I was like, is that why there's a weird tone to it? But I don't think that's the case at all. Because 2 weeks is long enough in like movie making land, but at the same time, like if you're there for the remote majority of the rest of the shoot, like you shape the narrative yourself as a director and even in the edit. So like to me, it's not a matter of like a patchwork production. To me, this is someone who's very, very particular to the style of who's getting cast in the movie, and then on top of that, like what kind of movie it's going to be.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, there is a bunch of kind of gallows humor in this, right? Like a lot of the movie is mocking the idea that death is some important, sad thing we need to fear, right? And I think that these guys, they so are confronted by death all the time. And the idea of going out west, there is this, we're no longer in this real world. What are you talking? People doubt here all the fucking time. And it means nothing. Their struggle and sacrifice is in vain. Right? And so these people don't have this kind of, oh my God, I have so much to lose. No one in this film seems to have that, right? I mean, Calhoun literally eats his own wife. That's how little he cares about losing what he has. Right. And so there is this void that needs to be filled, right? When you're not fighting for life, what is the thing? Now they're fighting for principle, right? And that leads, sadly, to mockery, right? If you're the one taking the stand, right? Everyone else can. What is your fucking problem? So they actually have a great confrontation, right? Because everyone thinks Boyd's insane, and Calhoun is Ives, and he becomes the new commander of the fort, right?
Yeah,
and everyone still
there's
thinks
a second half of this movie that is a completely different film that I was not expecting.
This is the part I wasn't expecting either, because essentially now we're doing devil's advocate, where Ives Calhoun is just like, dude, come along for the ride.
Yeah.
Like, you ate a guy already. What are you ate a guy to survive, and now you are high-handing, right? You were a soldier who killed for money. Now you ate a guy to survive. Why now draw the line, right? Why look at me and judge me as some subhuman piece of shit when I am just you without the guilt, right?
Right.
I did it because I wanted to have a better life, right? And you're judging me because you want to continue to be miserable. And that is not the movie I thought. I thought this would be trying to set up, oh, we got to prove that he did it. And, you know, what? It's just not.
Yeah, me too.
It's just not that film. And I would say to be more interesting that way.
I agree. Like, once we got back and Ives Calhoun took over the camp, I was like, okay, so now this movie is about who's the real monster of, like, you can't, it's like the way Fright Night works, you know, like trying to prove like it's literally someone shouting into the dark the whole time. What I loved was, it ended up being that, like, it's much more this, like, I wouldn't call it a morality tale because they're both eating people, but it's more like, it is like about like the definition of humanity in the face of.
I think it is a morality tale in a bit, right?
You think, really?
Well, you're on the right path a little bit, right? Because there's that great line when Calhoun says, America itself is expanding and consuming everything it can, right? That this is the country they're a part of. This is why they came here, is to take. And so what you're doing is you're setting up this, are we creatures that exist to this religious notion, right? Are we these creatures that are here to satiate our desires and enjoy ourselves?
Right.
Or do we have some higher obligation, right? Because all religion and all these moral codes are things we set upon ourselves, right? They are depriving ourselves of things that are maybe alluring to some parts of us, right? Our lesser selves, as they would say.
Right.
And he's just asking this guy, why? Right? What has this gotten you in your life, right? You were this guy and you ended up in the war with your fucking buddy's brains melting on you, you know, and then you did what they wanted and you still captured the guys. Now you're here. And what did that lead you to? Eating another fucking soldier's leg. Like, why? Why not join us? Why not feel better? Why not feel happy? And almost what he says is when you're eating another human, what you're actually consuming is that nagging humanity in yourself, right? You can imagine your life, you don't have to feel guilt and shame all the time, right? Like every day, we all put so much pressure on ourselves to be great and do this and that, and those kind of things fucking weigh upon us. Imagine just saying, I'll give that up. And what price would you set upon that, right? So this movie's asking this really big question, and it is kind of a little bit of this morality tale, right? Is there something... So in Boyd's decision, right, to continue to fight, right? Is there any kind of nobility in that? did he accomplish anything?
I gotta be honest, no.
I mean, it feels like no, but maybe, because this is the thing, right? So Calhoun is itching to scratch, right? That's how he's living now. He wants to consume. So in a way, maybe Boyd is only fulfilling his own kind of selfish desire to get one back, right? Is that he thinks if he can save a couple people in his own mind, that will right the cosmic scales for him, and that's fine, right? Because here's a scene I wanted to talk about. He fucking eats the stew, right? Calhoun sticks him when he says he won't fucking be a Wendigo. And he's like, you join us, we'll get the general to join us, we'll have a really good thing. He's doing the hard sell, right? The Pacino thing. Come on, Eddie Barzul, right? And Eddie Barzul is actually...
Eddie Barzum's the general.
In the fucking fort. And he's doing the thing, right? He's like, we'll be selective. We'll just eat bad people. We're not breaking up families. We're not eating little kids, which I thought was funny because he's morally equivocating there, right? So he knows he's full of shit, too. And when he says he won't join, he shanks him. And we watch his blood spilling out on that fucking couch as they're having, like, the interview with the vampire closed dinner. And he could just let it go. He could just be fucking done, which feels like all he wants this whole movie. Why in that moment eat the flesh and not just be done?
I asked myself the exact same question. Because to me, it is like this... To me, it's the aberration of, like... It's the aberration of storytelling, is like you set up a character. This is like kind of, to me, like this is actually sort of a flaw in the movie, I think. Is because...
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, like, to me, the moral situation is, you fucking, like, if you're going to prove that you're a better man, quote unquote, than a character who eats people to stay alive, and not just stay alive, but like stay as an apex predator, you're taking the moral high road in your opinion. So like that, you take that one to the grave. But like for me, for him to eat it sort of takes away from any sort of morality, like that he's trying, like there's just join the gang.
Because technically this is the second time he's eaten a human being.
Right.
So he already doesn't really have a moral high ground to stand on, right?
Right.
He's
so
drowning himself in guilt times 2.
Right. But it is this, but Interview with the Vampire is a great example of like, it's verbatim the exact same thing, which is like Louis won't eat anything but like sewer rats and fucking crocodiles or some shit. And Lestat spends that entire time being like, why are you putting yourself through this? Like, what do you think you gain by, like, this is who you are now. There's absolutely nothing about what you are that will change. You just have to accept the reality of this and go. So what happens is Guy Pearce buys into that reality. He accepts that reality. And by doing that, essentially foregoes any sort of like foregoes any kind of like need to be quote unquote the hero of the story. Because I got to be honest, like that makes no sense to me. Like from a storytelling standpoint, to have your character who fought the entire movie say, no, I'm not going to do it. Unless he was doing it, but even then he still does it. Like unless he's doing it to stay strong enough to end up killing him at the end.
I mean, I think that's the road they're hoeing, right? Is that he is going to make this Faustian bargain.
Right.
So that he can then bring it down. Right? Because once he eats it, we never see him like, oh, this is great. He immediately is like, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. Let me out. And so the question to me is not, I guess the question is not why does he eat the meat, but what does he think this will accomplish?
Right.
And I was like, maybe this is just the chance in the movie. And I know Loba, I was talking to him about, we were fighting about the soundtrack. And he talked about how he found this movie really homoerotic, right? Like there's a lot of this kind of subtext of, you know, there's something extra going on. And I think maybe there's something with that too, this not being able to be who you want to be, right? And that maybe when Boyd's character eats the meat stew, right? That's his first chance in the film to make a choice completely on his own, right? He doesn't choose to be stabbed and have to eat this to save his life. But by saying, I will eat this, but then I'm going to get this motherfucker, right? That is the only time in the film we see him make a choice on his own accord. So maybe there is something, again, about, you know, the Wendigo eating humanity and letting you be free of guilt and this and that. Maybe that is also what it's doing for Boyd. It just manifests in this kind of falsely noble path. Because that's the funny thing. While they're fighting to the death, we see the fucking dickhole general munching stew.
Yeah.
So we already have another old-ass Wendigo running around.
Unsuspecting.
But I think the movie is telling us, right? And I think that's why the Wendigos don't become monsters in this, in the prosthetic sense, right?
Right.
Is that within all of us, if we can take away those little bits of humanity, right? You gobble those up, and it's not that far into the abyss for us, right? We are really close to the edge of being monstrous at all fucking time.
Yeah.
And that guy just wanting some fucking stew meat. Now he's a fucking... I mean, he was a piece of shit the entire flick. He made it very clear he was a shitty guy.
By the way, special shout out, John Spencer's last on-screen appearance.
Was it really?
Last film before he died.
Oh, that fucking sucks. That's heavy.
Yeah. I guess last theatrical appearance.
Oh, okay. Well, that
But
sucks.
so he was the dickbag general who ate the stew and became a Wendigo.
The Dick General eating Wendigo meat. There you go. Well, so let's pair this decision of Boyd's with Hart, right? Because Hart is forced to become a Wendigo against his will.
Right.
Tries his best to manifest it. And then also caves in and says, I can't live like this anymore. I'll let you go, but you got to kill me first. Why does Hart give up once he's already become the Wendigo and feels great?
I mean, to me, it ends up being this choice of it's this man versus it's the man versus beast argument. You know, it's like what can you live as? Like, how can you live with yourself? What makes you feel that existing a certain way is okay? Like, I think that to me has always been sort of that to me is a big thing about this movie in general, is like these guys are asking themselves throughout the entire movie, what are you comfortable living as? It's just like we get back to Ives, who says, I'm fine with who I am. Like, I have made that decision, and long ago I made that decision. I made that decision 5 people ago, sorry.
Yeah, life gave me jack shit. I took it for myself.
Yeah. So, like, for him to take this, and again, like, it goes to the Native American man telling the story of what the Wendigo is. It's like, I mean, yeah, but that is, again, it's like the...
Dude, he has one of my favorite lines in the movie, too. When he says, the white man eats the body of Jesus every Sunday. And I was like, man, that's a good fucking line. That's a good line.
But that's...
George! R.I.P. Like, George.
But that's another thing that, like, gives you strength. It is this, like, you know, I mean, to be honest, like, that's another reason people do it.
It's built into this Christian society, right? The consuming the flesh and blood of a savior.
So, I mean, for me, Hart's decision to get rid of it is to say, like, I can't live as a monster that I know I'll become. Because the other thing, too, is, like, Hart's been out there already. Hart's been sequestered already. Because, like, that camp is this island of misfit toys of all these guys who fucked up. So you must assume that Hart did something really bad if he's a general and did that. So more than likely, he's already a monster. He doesn't want to live with being even more of a monster.
Yeah, because he comes back and kills the drunkard captain, right? He's the second guy. He killed Cleves. He killed the horses. So he's been on a slaughtering spree. And it is strange that in this moment, he chooses to forfeit that.
Yeah. That's like a vampire being staked and smiling after it happening.
Yeah.
Like being released from some...
Because once you've made that deal, you'd think you would live with it for, 30, 40 years before you're like, you know what? Enough's enough. Yeah. These people don't have a good diet anymore. They all taste like fucking orange soda now. I don't like it. Now I'm out. Right? I'd give it a run. I'd give it a fucking run. Once you saw those golden arches going up, you're like, good Lord. This country's going to hell. No more free range, man. I'm out. I only eat fucking yard to table. That's how I eat.
Jesus.
I don't know. I would, if I had already fucking eaten and killed like 10 people, I would just keep fucking eating and killing. I think once you eat one person, I think you're pretty much off the hook and you can just go to town. I think it's that's the fucking first, You know, that's the rock that starts the glass house crumbling. You got to do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty persistent expectation. Like once it's over, it's over, you know.
I mean, once you've eaten a man, like it's over. You're good.
What else is left, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to. You probably don't wear pants anymore. You're not worried about abs. You're just like whatever.
No, you're just like
this is me.
You're just sitting before a roaring fire, naked, just juice dripping down your front of your.
Just fucking thigh grease dribbling on my teats, glistening in the sun as I have just a bottle of fucking Yahoo chocolate milk to wash it down.
Yeah, see, this is important.
I can't live
it's
like
not
this.
Booze. It's Yahoo chocolate milk that you're going to be drinking.
I don't like to. This is something very specific about me that some of you know. I don't love to mix the eating and drinking. That's not my favorite. When it's time to drink, it's time to drink until I go to sleepy. And when I eat, it's also time to eat until I go to sleepy. I don't like the two to mix that much. If I can help it, I never eat while I'm drinking until my body goes into life-saving mode and it's like, eat 5 slices of pizza now. That's just how I am. I like to separate them. So yeah, I would have a nice artificial milk, right? I don't want anything organic.
Yeah, you're more of a Soylent guy. Is that what you're saying?
No, I want something that tastes like chemical to go with my fucking free-range yard-to-table man. I'm very clear on this podcast that maybe this month I've thought more than I should have about eating another human.
It's true.
Which, in a life-saving scenario, you guys need to take me out first, because I will be sizing you up immediately.
That's been made abundantly clear during this month.
Yeah, so the movie wraps up, right? I love that Calhoun Ives puts that mocking cross on his forehead, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a cool visual. They fucking go to town. They battle it out. Hart gets his throat sliced, right?
Yep.
And I thought this was kind of cool, right? So they have this epic battle, and it ends in them falling into this giant bear trap together, right? And Calhoun asks him this great question. He's like, I know if you die first, I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And I thought that was really cool, man. And it's weird to me because in my brain, I'm saying, why don't you try to bite his ear off right now? Like, get a little morsel and help his ass go to the grave. But Calhoun stops because he wants to put him to the test finally.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that is, right? This fucking living id who's going for it and loving it knows that more bodies are coming right now.
It's like,
why relent
this is the perfect,
and put him to the test?
This is the like, you ate to survive. Now will you eat to live?
But why does Calhoun not fight more ferociously in that trap?
Because I mean, to me, that's the Hannibal Lecter of it. Is he's like, it's like passing it. It's because he knows he's not technically going to die. He's passing this along. That's why he went to the camp in the first place.
It was weird because I was like, did he literally just give up his powers, his curse, as it were, just to try to prove a point?
I think he just did it because he's probably,
he doesn't seem bored. He seems pretty stoked on himself.
But to me, it's like man's the most, what is the quote? Man's the most deadly game.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
To me, it's like he's now hunted like a bunch of men. It's over with. Which maybe gives way to Lobo's homoeroticism.
But I'm saying in the spring it's going to be raining men, hallelujah. Why not keep fucking fighting? I thought this was okay now, and this is such a specific thing.
Right.
That it has to be addressed. Why is he not more ferociously trying to take a bite out of Boyd, who is a miserable bastard, hates life? And all I could come up with is that Calhoun somehow is getting a perverse joy out of the thought that he's going to force Boyd to eat him and go on.
I mean, I think that makes sense. Like that's what I thought. I thought it was literally like he's met his match. So now it's just a matter of fucking with him until he's finally willing to, let it go.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I settle on that finale, right? Because are we sure Boyd doesn't wake up or one of them doesn't wake up and take a bite? I think there was something to the lady comes back, right? Because she told him, right, if you want to defeat a Wendigo, you have to give yourself, right? You have to give all of yourself, right? You will be destroyed in the process, essentially. So I was like, maybe there was something mystical in that moment of his self-sacrifice, right? That kind of negated some of this. I'm not sure if that.
Well, that's
really
what it is. Is like, are you willing to be a man or the monster?
Well, I didn't know. Maybe they couldn't eat each other to survive. Like, anywho,
I don't know. I don't know what Wendigo on Wendigo rules are. That's a whole other.
Yeah, the Wendigo rules seem to get a little fungible at the end, and I thought it was and there's something about the way the lady comes back. She brings the general and them. She looks in the barn through the holes in the door, sees these two in a giant bear trap snuggle, and said, "Fuck y'all, I'm out." And I was like, so she's the smartest person in the movie and knew, "Fuck y'all, I'm out."
Yep.
So she knows this isn't over, right? That somehow, once this has been put into the environment, it will keep consuming, which I thought was a nice touch too. But it let me think that maybe, just maybe, she doesn't believe that whatever happens in that barn is over.
Yeah.
Do you think Boyd wakes up and takes the bite?
No.
You like the way it was there?
Yeah. I think Calhoun would before Boyd.
I feel like the movie is telling us that when it comes down to it, all of us would take that fucking bite.
Yes.
I think what I really like is the idea that this is not some kind of perverse just act against humanity, right? That at its very core, this is a world of consumption.
It's the most human.
Every bit of life is fueled by consumption.
Right.
And I think the movie really hammers that home, is not that it's, oh my God, he's eating a man, but just how far people will go in consuming everything around them, often to their detriment. I thought that kind of stuff in the film was, this movie is really, really goes into the deep water a lot and makes it through just fine.
Yeah, I think once you get past the concept of survival, the movie is about consumption, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it does. Again, other than a couple of very distracting audio cues,
there's some weird of its time decision making that had me worried, but then it came through so well, and I kind of figured, because everyone voted on this so fast and so frequently, I knew this one would be good. But yeah, I gotta say that first couple minutes I was, oh boy. But by the end, I really loved my time with this movie, man. I thought this was really a fun one to watch.
It was good.
All right, that's it for Ravenous. That's it for the Pod Serves Man Month. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next month, December, a lot of fun stuff happening. We have a double feature on the first Thursday of the month with Pen and Frailty. Amazing double feature from one of our patrons. We will be stuffing the stockings of our patrons, right? So everyone of our patrons got to submit a movie to pick. We rolled it up. We let the dice gods decide. We'll be bringing a handful of those together, including a Christmas-specific film. And Alex and I will be giving each other a movie gift to discuss on an episode. So December is always one of our favorite months. So stay tuned. Again, the Patreon is patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. That way you can get in on all the voting fun. You can have us talk about the movies you want. Go to the YouTube, Film Alchemist, so you can see our beautiful faces, you lucky devils. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on. Please tell your friends and share us on your socials. It means the world to us. Those 5-star rating and review help us defeat the algorithmic Wendigos trying to consume us up on the net. Until next time, for the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I am Alex Dandino.